Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Big T. Anderson, and this is a fanfiction reading of Panda-Monium by LancelotLaureate. Hopefully I didn't mispronounce that. For those that are new here, thank you for listening, I do appreciate it. And I am not the writer, LancelotLaureate is. LancelotLaureate. That's probably how it's done. I'm sorry if I butcher the name. But this is an older Doctor Who story, so a little bit different. Hopefully you enjoy it. Over the rules, I'm just Schmucky Duck reading it. Lancelot is the author, and with that, let's just begin. The TARDIS doors were pushed open by the Doctor as he put the key into the lock, and within seconds his ears were greeted with the familiar sounds of the place he called home. His back ached, his legs were tired, and having spent all day on his feet meant he was eager to get inside the ship and have a well-deserved rest. His two younger companions, Stephen and Vicky, followed on behind him. Vicky perched on Stephen's shoulders as he struggled to lower himself through the door without her slamming headfirst into the police sign above them. He panted as he took a moment to compose himself and then took a deep breath, bent his knees, and walked through the opening. Vicky climbed off his shoulders as he lowered himself near the ground. "A delightful excursion, sir," she said in her best posh voice, and then helped him back to his normal stature. Stephen felt his back ache, having carried Vicky all around the forest at a good speed. She had found a tall tree, fallen out of it, and then he'd been forced to carry her the rest of the way, though he wondered whether her injury was as bad as she made it out, or if she just wanted a nice lift. She started out simply being in piggyback hold, but as the journey continued, she'd ended up requesting sitting on his shoulders for a better view of the beautiful landscape. Stephen rubbed his shoulder. "We must have walked miles. Well, I must have. Any idea yet where we are, Doctor?" The Doctor rubbed his chin. "I can't be certain, dear boy, but most definitely Earth. But it could be any time in the past, or future, or any place with dense forests." Stephen folded his arms and looked wryly at the Doctor. "That narrows it down. So glad we travel on such a sophisticated state-of-the-art ship with pinpoint accuracy." The Doctor scolded him. "My dear young man, even a marvel of engineering has its weaknesses, and the ship's not perfect either." He let out a chuckle. "It's a shame we didn't see anyone," Vicky said, pulling some twigs out of her hair. "I'd have liked to have met some of the locals." Stephen rubbed his shoulder again. "Because of Taza and Vicky here deciding to climb the most dangerous tree in the woods, we don't even have a chance to examine any of the nature around us to get an idea of where we are." There was a sudden bleeding sound behind them, and on autopilot the three travelers turned to the console to determine the source of the noise. Their faces peered over the machine, eyes darting back and forth over buttons and levers, looking for a mechanical fault. "What's that sound?" Vicky said. "I haven't a clue, child," the Doctor said, disconcerted. "Nothing on my ship sounds like that." "It sounds like some sort of animal," she said with hope in her voice. There was a gasp from Stephen as he turned to face the doors. "Doctor, Vicky, who didn't lock up? We didn't get to meet the locals, but I think we just invited one of them to us instead." Vicky's eyes widened, and a large grin erupted on her cherubic face as she saw the black and white fluffy bear crawling along the console room floor toward them. She held her hands together tightly and let out an excited squeal as it seemed to clumsily hurry itself to greet them. "It's an adorable bear! Look how cute it is!" The Doctor chuckled. "Ah, goodness gracious me. Now, how did a panda bear get in here so quickly?" "Must have followed us." Stephen laughed and bent down to stroke the animal cautiously as it reached their position. He couldn't help but wonder if Vicky had done it on purpose somehow. A real panda bear. Can't believe it, in my time they're extinct. "Mine too," Vicky reminded him as she got down on her knees and stroked what appeared to be a very tame cub. "Such a shame those Daleks ruined it, because they are so fluffy." "But where is its mother?" the Doctor asked with concern. "A panda this size surely shouldn't be alone." Stephen continued to stroke the animal with gentle care. "I'm not sure, but it's a curious little thing. I better not let Hi-Fi see him, though. He might get jealous." The panda bear made some more grunting noises as it backed away from them and started to investigate the room, sniffing along all the pieces of furniture. As it reached one of the Doctor's bamboo chairs, it started gnawing at it before bleeding again. "Well, it's got dinner sorted," Vicky said, but the Doctor was already racing toward to remove the bear, his arms flailing about, unsure of how to proceed. Though the panda looked small, the Doctor had a tough time lifting it anyway. Come help me remove him, my boy. Don't just stand there with that infuriating smirk on your face. Stephen laughed and finally moved to assist his friend, picking the panda up under the arms, unsure of how one was supposed to move them, or whether they were meant to be held at all. He hadn't anticipated the weight and was thankful he didn't have to carry both Vicky and the panda through the forest. He finally moved the panda away best as he could, and the doctor quickly threw a blanket over the chairs to protect them from unwanted bite marks. It didn't take long, however, for the panda to turn back and start to head back to where it had just been moved. Vicky placed her hands over her mouth to stop an array of giggles and watched as Stephen was forced to repeat the action, lifting the panda under the arms and moving him to the other side of the room. "Doctor, I don't suppose the food machine does bamboo," he said, breathless with the strain of his task. "No, my boy, but I do have just the thing." Beautiful green and red-leaved trees greeted the travelers as they made their way into a section of the ship Vicky and Stephen had never seen before. They both gaped in awe at the room and began to wonder what the purpose was of a trip through a forest when there appeared to be one in the ship all along. It also brought up so many more questions about exactly what else was inside the TARDIS. Trying to get the panda to the room had been tricky, but it was with relief that the panda was introduced to some much-needed food when it arrived. "Why are there trees on the TARDIS?" Vicky finally asked as she surveyed the room and thought about all the mischief she could get up to in such a space. "You're very nosy, my dear, but I will say I am fond of having nature around me. The ship is in need of some plants. Foliage, it keeps the body relaxed. Aside from that, Susan was fond of it." His companions didn't notice the sadness in his eyes as they were too preoccupied watching the panda run around happily as if it was right at home. "Look at Pandora go!" Vicky said as she watched the animal shuffle about in all directions, nearly falling over itself like a clumsy child as it did so. "Pandora?" Stephen shot her a look. "Well, it needs a name. I think it suits her." The doctor ran his index finger over his chin and sighed. "I'm still not satisfied that the creature is safe here, and we certainly cannot take off with it on board. I think I'll head outside to see if I can find some clue to where she belongs. You two stay here and babysit." "But, Doctor, shouldn't I go and look for you?" Stephen said. Nonsense. Besides, that panda's taken a shine to you." Stephen looked down to where Pandora was now nuzzling against his leg with a piece of bamboo sticking out the side of its mouth like a cigar. Pandora scurried around the several small trees and let out a yawn as it started to tire at the circling. Stephen knelt down and beckoned the bear over, grasping a piece of bamboo between his fingers, holding it tightly, waiting for the panda to come to him for a feed. Vicky smiled as she watched Pandora sniff the bamboo and then circle Stephen as he pulled the treat away whenever the panda came close. "Oh, you're teasing her," Vicky said, giving her older friend a shove. He smiled. "I'm just playing. Look, she enjoys it." Stephen placed the small piece of bamboo onto his palm, and within minutes Pandora had eaten it off his hand and taken the treat to a place it could devour it. After gobbling the bamboo, Pandora grunted happily. Stephen stroked her softly and tickled her under the chin. "She's got quite an appetite, a bit like you," she said cheekily, and waited for Vicky to respond. She smirked but didn't reply, getting down onto her knees to cuddle the panda and kiss it on the head. "She's so cuddly." She sat down beside his friend and stroked Pandora. "You know, I'm sort of going to miss her when she goes back." Vicky was horrified at the thought. "Go back? Can't we keep her?" "Vicky, she's a panda and she's going to go back to where pandas belong." He kissed the panda on the head the same way Vicky had done. "I must admit I've grown fond of her myself. Hi-Fi's my best panda, of course, but she comes a very close second." "Perhaps the doctor will find its mother." "Perhaps we could ask the mother to do a trade. We'll take Pandora and raise her here, and the mother could raise the doctor." She chuckled. "Don't think anyone deserves that." She then watched as Stephen stared fondly at the panda, seemingly lost in his own thoughts as he tickled the panda on the belly. Vicky nudged Stephen. "You really are taken with her, aren't you? You have a thing about pandas. How did you come to have Hi-Fi, anyway?" Stephen smiled shyly, overcome with embarrassment as he felt her looking at him. He felt his cheeks flush as he tried to avoid the question, but it was useless ignoring her when she was always persistent in getting the truth out of him. He flinched. Oh, it was quite boring. He thought that would stop her inquiry, but it only made her more interested. "Oh, come on, Stephen. There must be a story there. How did he come to be on your ship?" "You can't leave anything alone, can you?" Vicky's mischievous smile widened. "Nope. Now come on, spill the beans." He sighed. Realizing he'd been beaten, and much like the days he'd spent in therapy when he was younger, he'd have to open up about his feelings at some point, he shuffled uncomfortably. Well, he was a present for my little sister Beth. I'd been on a space station. I only had one more mission before heading back home. So before I went, I found a shop that sold a manner of toys and games. On the top shelf, all dusty and alone, was a sad-looking little panda, and I thought if anyone could cheer him up, it'd be Bethy. And you crashed on your next mission? Yes. Mechanus was to be Hi-Fi's next home, not Earth. So then I realized I was never going to be able to give the toy to my sister. Stephen looked away and sniffed. Still, that was a long time ago now. She's probably got loads of cuddly animal toys anyway. Still, it must make you sad never getting there. Bit like me and Astra, I suppose. Stephen tapped Vicky softly on the shoulder, unsure of how to comfort her. Come on, we should see if the doctor's back yet. There was a loud crash as Stephen and Vicky entered the console room with Pandora beside them. The two friends stared in horror and amusement at the sight in front of them. The doctor was standing in front of the doors, his arms stretched wide across the doorframe, his legs apart as though he was about to start doing star jumps. With half of its body wedged through the double doors of the ship was an elephant. It made a tremendous noise as it tried to squeeze through a gap that was much too small. Its trunk rose upwards above the doctor's head and waved about frantically. Sensing his companions were in the room, the doctor waved his arm at them to assist. Don't just stand there. There's an elephant trying to gain access to my ship. We can see that, Stephen replied, trying hard not to laugh at the sight. Doesn't look much like Pandora's mother, though. This is no time for your smart mouth, young man. Do you know the irreversible damage this creature could do to my TARDIS? Stephen was amused greatly. You mean it could break something and get the ship to start working accurately? Vicky giggled, keen to get in on the joke. Perhaps he simply packed his trunk and wants to join us on holiday. They both laughed hysterically as the doctor growled at them, ignoring his unhelpful companions and looking into the elephant's eyes with fiery determination. Listen here, Sonny, I will not have any more unwelcome specimens in my ship. Have you got that? No teachers, no space pilots, no pandas, no trunks, no entry from here in. Vicky and Stephen grinned at each other. There was always going to be unwelcome specimens aboard the TARDIS, and he was really going to have to get used to it. Alright, so that was Panda-Monium. Like I said before, Lancelot wrote it. I'm just Schmucky Duck reading it. If you liked the story and you want to give the author some love, links down below. You know the drill. If you don't know the drill, hit link, give love on the other side of link. Meh. If you like how I do it, tell me down below, in the comments on this, and I will see y'all next time. Ta-ta for now.